Batman and Robin is a 1997 American superhero film based on the DC Comics character. It is the fourth and final installment in the Warner Brothers' initial Batman film series, a sequel to Batman Forever, and the only film in the series to be made without the involvement of Tim Burton in any capacity. Directed by Joel Schumacher, it stars George Clooney as Bruce Wayne Batman, who replaces Val Kilmer, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Victor Fries, Mr. Freeze, Chris O'Donnell reprising his role as Dick Grayson Robin, Uma Thurman, Alicia Silverstone, Michael Gough, Pat Hingle, and Elle Macpherson. The film follows Batman and Robin as they attempt to prevent Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy from taking over the world, while at the same time struggling to keep their partnership together. It is also to date the only live-action film appearance of the Batgirl, portrayed here by Alicia Silverstone, who helps the title characters fight the villains. Now, Warner Brothers fast-tracked the development of Batman and Robin following the box office success of Batman Forever. Schumacher was retained as director, but Val Kilmer decided not to reprise his role after scheduling conflicts with the 1997 film The Saint. Schumacher, though, later admitted that he had difficulty working with Kilmer on Batman Forever. Schumacher said, "He sort of quit. We sort of fired him." Schumacher had had strong interest in casting William Baldwin in Kilmer's place before George Clooney was eventually hired, as he felt he would bring a lighter interpretation to the Batman character. The movie premiered in 1997 and made $238 million worldwide against a $160 million budget. It was considered a box office disappointment and received generally negative reviews and is often considered one of the worst films ever made. Now, due to this, Warner Brothers cancelled the sequel, Batman Unchained, and then completely rebooted the film series in 2005 with Batman Begins. And that is the only credit I can give this film, that through its dismal performance has actually made Warner Brothers stop and think and decide, hey, we need to start this over again. What followed, of course, was the fantastic Dark Knight trilogy, but more on that later. Now, what more can I say about this film? Firstly, as a film, it is completely and utterly atrocious. Every aspect from the movie, from the story to the over-top costumes and sets to the absolutely horrible dialogue, with so many one-liners it would drive you criminally insane. Let's firstly start with the casting of George Clooney as Batman. Now, George is a good actor, whom I respect immensely, but here he is absolutely shocking as the Caped Crusader. He himself has even admitted that this film was horrible. He was even quoted once saying, "I think we killed the franchise," and often jokingly apologizes for this film. From his smirk to the wink in his eye, he's as believable as Batman as if Bugs Bunny had been cast in the role. Now let's discuss Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Real actors Ed Harris, Anthony Hopkins and Patrick Stewart were considered for the role, but for some reason they decided to go with Schwarzenegger. Joel Schumacher said, "We decided that Mr. Freeze needs to be big and strong, like he was chiseled out of a glacier." And that sums up Schwarzenegger's acting in this. Absolutely cold. I found him infuriating in the tragic story of Mr. Freeze, and he just means to make the role a joke. And the worst part, he was paid $25 million for the role. Then we get Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, a crazed botanist who becomes an eco-terrorist. The likes of Demi Moore, Sharon Stone and Julia Roberts were considered for the role, but Thurman took the role because she liked the femme fatale characterization of Poison Ivy. Now, Uma is deadpan flat and seems to have lost the ability to act in this film. They may as well have cast a plant in the role. She exudes none of the charm and charisma that makes Pamela Isley's Poison Ivy in the comic books such a fascinating and interesting character. And finally, we have the awful addition of Batgirl, a character in which I've never really taken to. In saying that, though, I thought the background of the Barbara Gordon version is arguably one of the best stories in Batman lore. I, of course, am referring to The Killing Joke. But I have never been a fan of all the sidekicks added to Batman's crusade. I've always felt as a character he works better on his own. But instead of using the fantastic Barbara Gordon aspect of the Batman series, they decide to reinvent the character and call her Barbara Wilson and make her Alfred's niece. At this point in the film I could actually scream, as this film just keeps getting worse and worse. Just when you think they've scraped the barrel, they seem to dig themselves further down into a hole. Silverstone is plastic in this role and an absolutely horrible choice, and there's nothing more to say about her awful casting. Chris O'Donnell is irritating as he reprises his role of Robin from the Batman Forever film. And frankly, the only good thing that came out of this film was that Warner Brothers pulled the plug and decided enough was enough with this franchise. Now, as a film watcher, I was appalled by this film. But as a Batman lover, I was frankly insulted, as this was a complete slap in the face for anyone who even had the slightest adoration for the Batman universe. Rather do yourself a favour and watch paint dry, as this is a complete and utter waste of a film. Batman and Robin gets a 0 out of 10.